Gustavo Fring looked like a friendly fast food restaurant owner to everyone in town, but behind that perfect smile was a cold and ruthless drug kingpin. From suffocating Arturo Cologne with a plastic bag to poisoning Don Eladio and his cartel, he cleverly maintained his public image while secretly running a massive drug operation that led him to either being directly or indirectly responsible for the deaths of 22 people. In this video, we'll cover every single person he killed. Gustavo Fring killed Arturo Cologne in a calculated murder that demonstrated his ruthless control over the drug business and his contempt for those who operated without his permission. The execution occurred during the power vacuum following Hector Salamanca's stroke, which Nacho Varga and Arturo believed that they could assert more authority within the cartel's operations, while working as intermediaries between the Salamancas and Fring. Tensions mounted after Arturo brazenly demanded extra kilos during pickups, taking advantage of Hector's absence to flex his newfound power, a move that Fring observed with concealed rage, while patiently awaiting the perfect moment to eliminate this growing threat. After a routine drug collection, Fring and his men ambushed Arturo and Nacho in a darkened lot, where Fring methodically pulled a plastic bag from his pocket and placed it over Arturo's head, calmly securing it around his neck as Arturo struggled helplessly, while Nacho watched in horror. Fring's eyes remained cold and fixed on Nacho as Arturo's movements grew weaker, until his body finally went limp.
Look at me. From now on, you are mine.
After it was over, Fring revealed to a terrified Nacho that he knew about his role in Hector's stroke, effectively forcing Nacho into becoming his unwilling informant against the Salamancas. This execution cemented Fring's dominance in the drug hierarchy, trapped Nacho in a dangerous position between warring factions, and accelerated Fring's methodical dismantling of the Salamanca operation while expanding his territory and influence throughout the Southwest. I thought Gus killing Arturo was a bold but intelligent move for the long run. Subscribe if you agree. But killing Arturo was just the beginning. Werner Ziegler met his tragic end with a single bullet to the back of his head, fired by Mike Ermentrout, who was carrying out direct orders from Gus Fring to eliminate a security risk to their operation. The German engineer had been brought to Albuquerque to oversee construction of Fring's secret underground meth lab, a sophisticated facility designed to secure Fring's independence from the cartel's supply chain. Tensions emerge when Werner, homesick and worn down by months of secrecy and isolation, escaped from the secure housing compound to meet his wife at a nearby hotel, an unforgivable breach of security protocols. Desperate attempts to locate the fugitive engineer culminated in Mike tracking Werner to a remote desert location, where the normally meticulous engineer had left an electronic trail, despite his careful planning. Upon finding him, Mike received the devastating order from Fring. Werner could not be allowed to live.
All right, I'll bring him in now.
No. Keep him there. Wait.
I'd go another way.
That I know.
That'd be a mistake.
This discussion serves no purpose.
I'll do it myself, Mike stated grimly, before leading Werner away from the resort to a secluded spot among the stars Werner so admired. As Werner accepted his fate with quiet dignity, Mike executed him with a single shot, his face a mask of regret. The execution left Mike deeply troubled while cementing his role as Fring's enforcer and problem solver. Werner's deaths ultimately accelerated the lab construction timeline and deepened the moral compromises Mike made in service to Fring's empire. Although Gus didn't pull the trigger, it was done through his orders, which makes him responsible for this tragic end to a much-liked character. Ciro met a swift end with a bullet to the head, executed by one of Gus Fring's professional mercenaries during the coordinated purge of Lalo Salamanca's support network in Something Unforgivable. The elimination occurred during the escalating war between Fring and the surviving Salamanca, as Lalo had narrowly escaped an assassination attempt at his compound and had gone into hiding, making everyone in his circle, including his loyal Lieutenant Ciro, a liability that needed to be neutralized to prevent Lalo from regrouping and retaliating against Fring's operation. In the dead of night, Fring's mercenaries infiltrated Ciro's residence with tactical precision, disabling security measures before the point man located Ciro in his study. The silenced weapon only made a soft thud as the mercenaries squeezed the trigger, the bullet striking Ciro in the back of the head before he could even register the intrusion. In the aftermath, Ciro's body remained undisturbed as Fring's team methodically eliminated Miguel, Cecilio, and Yolanda in similar fashion. Each death communicated to Fring through encrypted channels as he sat stoically in his office, checking names off his list. The elimination of Lalo's support structure ultimately forced him to operate completely alone, and this leads us to Gus' next kill, which is Lalo's final, fatal confrontation with Fring in the incomplete lab beneath the laundry. Lalo Salamanca met his dramatic end in the unfinished underground laboratory, falling to multiple gunshot wounds delivered by Gus Fring himself in a rare moment when the typically calculated businessman was forced to take direct lethal action. The confrontation occurred during the culmination of their long-running shadow war, after Lalo had discovered Fring's secret construction of a methamphetamine super lab, concrete evidence of Fring's true intentions to circumvent the cartel's production monopoly and eventually eliminate the Salamancas altogether from the business they had dominated for generations. Tensions had escalated to a breaking point after Lalo survived the initial assassination attempt at his compound, disappearing only to resurface with deadly purpose. Lalo watched Gus's men be called away in response to Gus learning of Lalo's presence at Jimmy's apartment. Sneaking onto the roof, Lalo shut down a fan so that he could sneak in. Lalo ambushed Gus when he arrived, killing all of Gus's henchmen and taking Gus captive. In the dim lighting of the underground space, Fring manipulated a momentary power outage to reach his hidden weapon. Emerging from the darkness with cold precision, he fired multiple shots that struck Lalo in the chest and the throat.
You done?
No. Not yet.
Gus's normally composed demeanor gave way briefly, revealing the violent fury that had been carefully concealed behind his businessman facade, as Lalo's trademark smile faded into shock before he collapsed onto the concrete floor. Following the event, Fring coldly straightened his tie while standing over at his fallen enemy, his clothing stained with Lalo's blood, as Mike Ehrmantraut arrived to witness the scene, both men understanding that Lalo's body would need to join the concrete foundation of the very laboratory he had discovered. The elimination of Lalo removed the final intelligent threat from the Salamanca family, creating the power vacuum that allowed Fring to accelerate his takeover of the southwestern drug trade, while simultaneously burying the truth about his superlab construction beneath layers of concrete, a secret that would remain hidden until Walter White eventually partnered with Fring years later, unknowingly cooking above the body of the last man who truly understood Fring's endgame. Lalo was, in my opinion, Better Call Saul's best villain, so one half of me was kinda sad to see him go, but it had to happen either way. The Salamanca twins met their violent ends through Gus Fring's masterful manipulation, with Marco dying in a parking lot shootout and Lionel succumbing to a lethal hospital injection, both deaths orchestrated by Fring without leaving his fingerprints on either murder. The elimination occurred during the escalating conflict between Fring's organization and the Salamanca family, after Walter White had killed Tuco Salamanca and the twins had traveled north from Mexico seeking vengeance, a mission that Fring redirected towards Hank Schrader, to both protect his valuable cook and eliminate two unpredictable cartel enforcers while maintaining plausible deniability. Tensions have been building since Fring learned of the twins' presence in his territory, recognizing an opportunity to weaken the Salamanca family while appearing loyal to the cartel. He strategically delayed their assault on Walter by suggesting they target the DEA agent responsible for Tuco's death instead, a calculated move that gave Fring time to anonymously warn Hank of the impending attack. In the ensuing confrontation, Hank managed to kill Marco with a bullet to the head despite being gravely wounded himself, while Lionel was left critically injured but alive, a loose end that Fring quickly addressed by sending Mike Ehrmantraut to the hospital, where he injected a lethal substance into Lionel's IV line, ensuring no witnesses remained to expose Fring's betrayal.
Time of death, 2043.
Burn in hell, you piece of shit.
Soon after, Hank became a hero within the DEA while battling his injuries, completely unaware of Fring's role in both saving and using him as an unwitting executioner in the drug kingpin's elaborate scheme. This orchestrated elimination of the infamous Salamanca twins further weakened the once powerful family, accelerated Fring's covert takeover of the southwestern territories, and deepened his strategic advantage while maintaining his carefully cultivated image as a respected businessman and supporter of law enforcement. Gus getting rid of the cousins was a great move because it took out two terrifying cartel killers and showed how clever Gus was at getting rid of problems without anyone knowing he was behind it. Another kill that Gus didn't perform himself but was responsible for was Juan Bolsa. Juan Bolsa met his violent end in his own heavily guarded estate, gunned down by Mexico Federales in what appeared to be a government raid but was actually an intricate assassination orchestrated by Gus Fring. The execution occurred during a period of instability following the attack on Hank Schrader by the Salamanca twins, when the cartel was facing increased scrutiny from both Mexican and American authorities, a situation that Fring exploited to eliminate a powerful rival while maintaining his facade as a loyal cartel lieutenant. Tensions have been escalating since Bolsa had ordered the hijacking of Fring's drug shipments, believing the thefts would force Fring to rely on the cartel's product. A big miscalculation that Fring observed was concealed fury while quietly planning his counterattack through his network of government connections on both sides of the border. During a phone call, with Fring discussing the recent turmoil, Bolsa's compound was suddenly breached by Federale vehicles that crashed through the gates, prompting his bodyguards to return fire before being quickly overwhelmed.
When I get proof, and the others find out what you've done, maybe we come pay you a visit. Maybe we come.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es eso? Vayan a ver. Vean lo que está pasando.
Bolsa fled to his house in a panic, only to find himself cornered as the Federales stormed inside with military precision, unleashing a barrage of bullets that ripped through Bolsa's body while he desperately clutched his phone, dying while Fring listened calmly from the other end of the line. In the chaotic aftermath, Mexican authorities reported the death as part of their escalating war on the cartels, while a seemingly shocked Fring expressed his concerns to his superiors about the cartel's vulnerability. This strategic elimination of Bolsa removed the last major obstacle to Fring's north-of-the-border operations and positioned Fring to methodically consolidate his power while appearing to remain loyal in an organization he was systematically dismantling. Tomas was tragically killed in an alley by Gus Fring's street dealers, who saw him as just another tool they could throw away when he became a problem for his business. The execution occurred during a period of mounting tension between Jesse Pinkman and Fring's operation, when Jesse had discovered that Tomas, the younger brother of his girlfriend Andrea, was being used as a child soldier in Fring's drug distribution network, forcing Fring to eliminate a liability that connected his business to both a child murderer and his valuable methamphetamine cook. Tensions had escalated after Jesse confronted Fring about the dealers using children to commit murders and sell product, leading to a tense meeting where Fring appeared to prohibit the use of children, a public concession that privately sealed Tomas's fate as the boy knew too much about the dealer's operations and could potentially implicate Fring if questioned by authorities.
No more children. Understand? And you keep the peace. Say it.
Yeah, I'll keep the peace.
During the night in the same neighborhood where he had worked as their messenger, Tomas was lured to a secluded location by the dealers who had once employed him. Without witnesses present, they executed the 11-year-old with a single gunshot, leaving his body to be discovered later as just another casualty of gang violence, a murder deliberately staged to appear unconnected to Fring's organization. Following this, the discovery of Tomas's body devastated his sister Andrea and ignited a vengeful fury in Jesse, who correctly suspected Fring's dealers were responsible, despite their claims of innocence during the earlier meeting. The cold-blooded murder of Tomas ultimately shattered Jesse's uneasy truce with Fring, prompting Jesse to attempt revenge against the dealers, forcing Walter White to intervene by running down the dealers with his car, and would set in motion the irreparable rift between Fring and his cooks that would eventually lead to the drug kingpin's own violent demise. This death was, in my opinion, one of the most shocking deaths in the show, as Tomas was only 11 years old. Subscribe with notifications on if you agree. Victor's life ended in shocking brutality when Gus Fring sliced open his throat with a box cutter, transforming the loyal henchman from enforcer to message in a single calculated act of violence. The execution occurred during an intense standoff in the lab following Gail Bedeker's murder, when Walt and Jesse were summoned to face Fring's wrath, creating an unpredictable situation where Victor had overstepped his role by attempting to cook the meth himself while being seen at Gail's crime scene by witnesses. Tensions mounted as Victor confidently prepared a batch of methamphetamine to prove Walt and Jesse were replaceable, while simultaneously having exposed himself as a liability by being identified at Gail's apartment.
Oh, you don't know what the hell you're doing, do you? You forgot the aluminum. One of the first steps in...
A double failure that Fring observed was silent simmering rage, as he changed into a hazmat suit, his movements deliberately slow and precise as the room filled with suffocating dread. Without warning or explanation, Fring grabbed Victor from behind and sliced his throat with surgical precision, using the lab's box cutter. Blood sprayed violently across the lab as Victor clutched helplessly at his neck, his eyes wide with betrayal and shock, while Walt and Jesse watched in horror, paralyzed as their colleague collapsed and bled out at their feet. In the aftermath, Fring calmly washed his hands and changed back into his suit, straightening his tie before instructing a shell-shocked Walt and Jesse to get back to work, as Mike hastily arranged for the disposal of Victor's body. By killing Victor like that, Gus hit multiple birds with one stone. He got rid of someone who could connect him to a crime scene, scared Walt and Jesse into doing what they were told, showed everyone he had no problem killing his own guys, and established a new phase in their working relationship, one where Fring carefully maintained polite act had been momentarily lifted to reveal the predator beneath the businessman's facade. This kill shook me to the core when I was watching. The surprise, the bloody violence, it really set the tone for the rest of the show. Gustavo Fring executed his decades-long revenge plan with clinical precision, poisoning Don Eladio and the entire cartel leadership with a bottle of rare tequila and a masterstroke of vengeance that eliminated his enemies in a single devastating strike. The mass execution occurred at Don Eladio's Mexican estate, where Fring had journeyed under the pretense of making peace with the cartel by bringing them Jesse Pinkman to teach their chemists his superior cooking method, a peace offering that was really a trap to get all the cartel bosses in the same place at once. Tensions have been simmering for decades since Don Eladio had ordered the murder of Fring's partner, Max Arciniega, at this very poolside, a trauma that Fring had transformed into calculated hatred while building his empire and patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike, acting like he surrendered while preparing his poison. During the celebratory toast beside the same pool where Max had been killed, Fring ensured Don Eladio received a special bottle of Zafiro Añejo tequila.
Zafiro Añejo. Miren, hasta la botella es una obra de arte. Es perfección. Quizás demasiado bueno.
The cartel leader and his capos eagerly consumed the poisoned spirit, leading to a horrific scene as one by one they began clutching their throats and chests, their bodies convulsing violently before collapsing around the pool, while Fring himself had taken precautionary medication, merely vomited and remained conscious. As well as Don Eladio, the following cartel members had been poisoned: Benico Fuentes, Miguel, Don Cesar, Don Ronaldo, Don Arturo, Don Cisco, Don Luis, Don Escalada, and Don Eladio Fuente. Following the event, Mike Ehrmantraut and Jesse Pinkman helped a weakened Fring escape the compound, eliminating any surviving cartel members, leaving a once powerful organization decapitated in a single night. This carefully planned massacre eliminated the entire cartel leadership structure, fulfilled Fring's 20-year quest for vengeance, created a massive leadership gap throughout the southwestern drug trade, and positioned Fring as the undisputed ruler of the largest meth distribution network in the region, a triumph he had patiently engineered since the moment he watched Max die at his feet. In my opinion, this is easily one of the best and most satisfying scenes in Breaking Bad. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe with notifications turned on, and I'll see you in the next video about every single person Jesse Pinkman killed.